So here's something a little bit different, guys. Yeah, I know, they're comic books. And I've never been a huge fan of Transformers in comics, as everybody knows. But, to be fair, when the new Skybound Image take on the Transformers kicked off, I said, you know what, I'll give it a fair shake. And of course, what has emerged is the Energon Universe across Void Rivals, Transformers, and a couple of G.I. Joe titles being Duke and Cobra Commander. Well, I did review Void Rivals a little while ago and said I think the potential is there for a slow burn of a storyline. And now that we're a few months in, I thought it was high time that we see just how the Energon Universe is unfolding. That is going to be our focus. Something a little different this time around in the latest GotBot True Review. Hey, what hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton to let you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that is in the description down below, also in the description down below. And if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And this isn't exhaustive. Like, I have issues 1, 3, and 6 of Void Rivals. I have the first 3 issues of the new Transformers series. I have Duke #1 here, and I have Cobra Commander issues 1 and 2. And we all know over the last several years, last decade I guess, especially, I've been really hard on Transformers and comic books. I did not at all care for anything that IDW did. I don't care for the company. I don't know if it's the writing or the editing. It's not for me. And a lot of people said, well, that's not fair because you don't like Transformers or comics fiction. And that's a fair criticism to make. So when the new Image Skybound Image took off, I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a fair shake from the beginning. Now, I'm not planning on following this like religiously or anything like that, but it's interesting to see what I like and what I don't like. We're going to kind of talk about this very briefly in sort of 3 sections. Void Rivals, Transformers, and then G.I. Joe. And, of course, then we'll do a quick conclusion. So, I'm going to lay most of these down, and I'm only going to kind of take in my hand, at the moment, the other 2 Void Rivals issues that I have. And here's what's interesting. I have 1, 3, and 6. And granted, there's definitely aspects of the story that I have missed. But I know enough to know, and it's written cleanly enough for me to realize that in issue 1, we have the 2, I'll say, main characters meet each other. And there's sort of that third character because the guy, I can't remember his name, the guy's glove is a character, a comedic character at that, and it's a piece of technology. And they kind of start to forge a relationship and a bond, and by issue number 3 here, we see that, you know what, they made it off the planet by kind of using parts from both of their ships, and the first thing that we're introduced to here is a Scuzoid. I thought it was Slizardo until the guy says no, and he talks about bringing their ship to Slizardo, and I'm like, wow! Okay, so there's a nice little overlap. The storytelling and the characterization of the main story is the new original characters, but the introduction of a Transformers alien is a nice little nod and touch. As they go through this gigantic ship that the Scuzoid is on, they end up releasing this. And I even asked Starscream's wife, what's this? And it's obviously Scorponok, which she calls Crabdicon. But it was easily recognizable. The character model is there. The character model is good, which says something for the artwork. Who is the artist here? See if I can find it. Lorenzo de Felici? Not a name I know, but you know what? Nice, recognizable, crisp artwork. And as they keep going, they end up releasing a Quintesson Prosecutor. So we have a lot of alien species from Transformers in here that takes us to a point where they end up making a deal with the Scuzoid and they end up leaving the ship. Great, grand. And then I skip a couple of issues to 6 and I realize, you know what? There is a big bad dude who I think is maybe the ruler of one of the planets. And while it seems like the 2 main characters are starting to find peace because they're from 2 warring factions, obviously something big is going down that wants to kind of keep the war going. And On the back page here, we're told about really 2 characters, but I don't know who they're going to be introduced. Here's the thing that I like about Void Rivals. I think it's well written, and I think holes in the story are explained and glossed over enough that you're not left with playing guessing games. Even if it's something you missed, you can fill it in with the back explanation very easily. I've always found reading the IDW stuff that unless you had read the previous issues, there was a lot of like inside jokes and inside references that weren't very well explained, and I used to find that that was one of the aspects that very much took me out of the story. I don't find that with Void Rivals. So far, I think that this is a very unique and interesting take on a brand new fiction with limited characters that has a couple of nice overlaps with Transformers. The Quintessons, the Scuzoids, and if we go back to issue 1, of course, Jetfire. Obviously, somewhere along the way, these are going to connect more, but they do represent 2 alien races that exist in the same universe and the same world that the Transformers do. So, Void Rivals, so far, I think it's a neat little series. So that's part 1. Then we get to the 3 G.I. Joe titles. And the Duke, I like it, except in the beginning it seems like Duke is being railroaded a little bit. This must be in the past somewhat because we have Colonel Hawk, not General Hawk. And it seems like a lot of people don't believe Duke. And Duke says, I know what I saw. I was being given a flight back. And his plane was attacked by what looked like one of their planes. Naturally, this was Starscream. And I'm pretty sure Starscream squished the pilot. Like, just squished him because, you know, kind of like Dropkick says in the Bumblebee movie. They pop, right? I like how they pop. So Starscream was doing the same sort of thing. Duke ends up getting in contact with a scientist who basically says, like, I'm researching this energon, and I think that, I'm researching this energy, and I think some of this energy is being used by Mars Industries. So Duke infiltrates it, and sure enough, it's being used by Mars Industries. And of course, anybody who is a G.I. Joe fan knows that Mars Industries is the McCullens that own that. And we all know that, you know, that's Destro, right? That's Destro's family. So right away, we have some allusions to Energon. Duke is kind of a little messed up in the head because of Starscream, right? He saw this big alien robot. It squashed my friend. So, like, I think there's a lot more character development here. I just hope that they don't end up taking the heroic and honorable Duke and really just making him, like, messed up and damaged and broken. Because to me, that would ruin the character. A lot of us saw Duke as a father figure growing up. Don't take that. Even if you want to give him a couple of challenges, cool. But don't destroy what makes Duke Duke. This has potential, but I could also see it going the wrong way depending how it goes. In conjunction with that are the 2 Cobra Commander titles. And here's what I really like about the Cobra Commander titles. They very much explain, certainly in this issue, issue 1, Cobra Commander's rise through Cobra Law, right? How he's a scientist who survived this big attack, and he kind of sells the idea of going to the upper world for Globulus and Cobra Law and their glory to bring more resources back, including this new energy that they could use. And he's even able to track the energy and stuff, and he's given the mask, and he's given an elevated rank, an elevated title, if you will, of Commander. Cool. Excellent backstory there. We also learned that he's holding a certain leader of the Decepticons as a hostage and doing research on that, which is probably how he learned about Energon to begin with. Obviously, a crossover there with Megatron. Then in issue 2, we focus more on the G.I. Joes themselves as Cobra Commander goes hunting for the Energon signatures on the surface of the world and comes in contact with the Dreadnoks. The Dreadnoks are presented as extremely brutal. We're certainly met with Ripper and Buzzer. And they're driving the Thunder Machine. Nice little nod to that sound wave. As they go through, basically, we're even introduced, for example, to Pythona. And nicely, if you saw Pythona and you were like, I don't know what G.I. Joe that is, I don't know that character. All of their names are said, but in such a way where it's just integrated into the dialogue, into conversation, really smoothly. We also have this guy who's like a protector for Cobra Commander. I haven't figured out who this is yet because he's wearing a disguise. But I think that that's really cool. We also, at the end of the Duke comic, find out that, you know what, because Duke has gone rogue now, he's going to be kind of brought in by a couple of American heroes, being Stalker and Rock and Roll, I think. And I say that because for some reason this guy reminds me of Rock and Roll, even though it's not him. Cobra Commander is about as vicious and bloodthirsty as Starscream is, which I like because I think it matches the character of Cobra Commander. But at this point, Cobra isn't the thing. We know Mars Industries, they're off by themselves. The Dreadnoks, they're not under Cobra Commander's, tutelage yet. So we see the evolution of Commander right up from being a scientist through Cobra Law and how he got the title of Commander. Now I assume we're going to see the evolution of Cobra itself. Probably using the technology that he is studying from Megatron himself. This I think is a very important title for not only character building for G.I. Joe and Cobra Commander, but for establishing how Cobra can build so many powerful weapons and accessories and vehicles, because it's all probably going to be based on Cybertronian technology instead of Earth technology. I think that's a nice way to go. Of course, it also means it's probably going to need Energon to work. And finally, so I think the G.I. Joe ones, they have potential. I'm more invested in and interested in the Cobra Commander series than the Duke one. Not because I think the Duke one is going to be bad, I'm just concerned that they're going to not do him justice. Time will tell. Time will tell. And then finally, part 3. So I think Void Rivals, being its own story within the universe, is cool. I think the treatment of G.I. Joe for Duke has potential to go a little cattywampus sideways, but I think the way they're handling Cobra Commander and the rise of Cobra is excellent. And that brings us finally to Transformers. And then we have issue 1. Issue 1, Starscream wife done her own running commentary on this. She thought it was a great story. It was a story, or at least it was a bunch of words she said to the pictures.
My story was great.
Well, your story was it was words to pictures. Here's what I like. I really like the flow of the story. It's very slow build, and it's very much Optimus and the Autobots just learning about humans, and humans just learning about them and not trusting them. There's a lot of parallels to very early G1 here. I also like with the artwork, and see if I can get a good picture of this. Yeah, like these two pictures. I like the thick black line work for the Transformers themselves, for the robots, because they're big, and that thicker line work feels big. In this case, again, you've changed a couple of things, like Starscream mentions, here's what I don't like. Starscream mentions that they've had a war for 100 years. I mean, they're supposed to have their war for millions of years. The Sky Spy is supposed to be what goes out and finds the new alt modes for the Transformers. In this case, it's Jetfire, who returns after being dormant, and I'm not even 100% sure how he found him. It was probably explained in Void Rivals 1. But he goes to the Ark, and he's the one that feeds the information into Teletran to start reviving them. Reviving Starscream first, because that's his friend. And then Starscream very quickly becomes maniacal and bloodthirsty. Let's just say that. First shot the guy lets off is on a deactivated Bumblebee, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying. I was okay with that. But as it goes through, certain characters are kind of taken offline very quickly that I didn't want taken offline. And we have a missing Megatron right away, which was a bit of a mystery, of course. I guess we know now the Cobra Commander has him, but it's certainly a bit of a mystery at the time. Starscream is very much like, don't even say the name, I lead here now, which I think matches Starscream. The end of this issue I thought was pretty good. I liked it because it really shows... Starscream's brutality when he squashes someone. But here's the two main things that rub me a little raw. One, the alt modes, especially for Ratchet and Optimus, like they're G1, but I don't like these big sections of black that are on here. I mean, fine, I get it. It's not hateful, but it's like the character model's already there. Why didn't you just follow that? Why did you have to like stylize it like this? It just doesn't land with me. It might land with you. What I really don't like is the way that they are developing the relationship of Spike and Sparkplug. Sparkplug is very much depicted as somebody who has turned to the bottle, who has suffered some stress and turned to the bottle. I like Spike, and while Spike and Sparkplug, I like them. And even growing up, I was like, they obviously lost their wife and mom, and that was a tragedy and whatnot. But it seems to have brought the father and son closer together, and I liked seeing that. I don't like seeing a damaged Sparkplug, so I hope that that's not what lasts. Issue 2 kind of carries on the same sort of the same sort of storyline. We get more evolution of Optimus on Earth. He ends up accidentally killing a deer and feels bad about it because he's an Autobot. And Spike says accidents happen and blah, blah, blah. That's fine and dandy. We get a lot of mistrust from the humans in this one, which I think makes sense. I like the writing. It's very clear and it very much follows. By the way, this is the jet that Duke's in, that Starscream ends up destroying and taking out right here. You see the start of that battle. So I like the way the crossover is handled between the two series. The end of this... and I also like this. When they're showing... Where is it? Is it here or is it here? I also like this. Some of the artwork actually shows the transformation. One of the things I didn't like about Transformers in comics was you didn't see the transformations. You should see the transformations. I think panels like this help that cause. By the end of this issue, we find out that the guy that Starscream squished was Carly's dad. Boo. And I'm not going to say much about the third issue, even though this is a couple of issues old now. But the third one is also quite good. I like how the story is evolving. A couple of little adjustments to the actual lore that I don't like. Stick to the lore. It's already established. Like Optimus mentions either in this one or the last one that they've been fighting for 2 centuries. The issue before, Starscream said a century. How long have you been fighting? That's a little continuity issue that is no big deal, but maybe you should find a way to rectify that. There's a lot of violence in it. I mean, it's going to get a bit graphic at times, both for people and robots, as Optimus tears off his own arm and then proceeds to beat Skywarp with his own arm. But Skywarp actually is smart enough here to use his teleporting ability. So, at the end of the day, I think the toughest pill right now for me to swallow is the Transformers one. Not because it's bad. It actually parallels G1 quite nicely. But the couple of liberties you take with the history and how long the war has been going on, the couple of liberties you take with kind of writing out certain characters already that I kind of wish you didn't write out, and the liberties that you take with, I think, damaging the relationship between Spike and Sparkplug, we'll have to wait and see. I think Void Rivals is great. I think the G.I. Joe take has potential, especially Cobra Commander, and so does Transformers, but I see a few more pitfalls to Transformers, and only time will tell. For now, I think they're doing an acceptable, reasonable job. Let's hope it continues. Let's hope it improves. And if anybody that has anything to do with any of those series actually sees this, hears this, then I hope you know that I'm hoping for the best for you to stick to the lore that we all know and love. Let me know what you think of the Skybound Energon Universe so far. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. While you're at it, please and thank you, hit the subscribe button. Stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel. And don't forget, for one moment, for 1 second, that every single day, each and every day, you right there, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old fashioned way, right here. Do you know what comes next, Starscream wife?
Inside the video.
Inside the videos.